Hello, I'm Dr. Maurie Markman from City of Hope, and I wanted to briefly discuss what I consider to be not only a critically important trial, but as a representative of an incredibly important, underrepresented type of trial as we move forward in the oncology arena. I cannot overstate how important I think this type of trial needs to be moving forward, and we've got to figure out a way of doing such studies. The study was entitled Simple versus Radical Hysterectomy in Women with Low-Risk Cervical Cancer. Now, although GYN cancer is my own clinical interest and clinical research interest for 40 years, I'm not a surgeon, I'm not a gynecologic surgeon. So I didn't read this paper with the perspective of, oh, yeah, this is what I do in practice. And yet it's so critically important. Radical hysterectomies have been standard of care in the types of cancer we're dealing with because the goal has obviously been to remove the cancer and to make sure that it doesn't come back. And certainly in cervical cancer, until very recently, we didn't have much in the way of therapy. So surgery was the main modality, and one did not want to undertreat. But even though that was the standard of care, the radical hysterectomy observational studies had suggested the possibility that less radical, simple hysterectomies might be equally effective. But how do you prove this? How do you do the trial to definitively show this? And critically, who's going to do the trial? Who's going to pay for it? No drug, no device, just incredibly important for women with the illness and their families. And if I sound a little bit facetious, if it sounds like I'm concerned, the answer is yes, because that is the question. How do you do these trials? How do you make them important? Well, this was a phase 3 randomized trial funded by the Canadian Cancer Society, among others, as stated in the paper. 700 patients looking at this question, the so-called lower risk cervical cancer, defined as lesions of 2 centimeters or less with limited stromal invasion. Again, very technical. GYN oncologists are the individuals who deal with this. And yet, if you look at the results of the study, which showed no difference in outcome from the point of view of the primary recurrence locally, demonstrating a substantial reduction in treatment-related morbidity, including urinary incontinence and urinary retention. For example, the urinary retention at 4 weeks post-surgery in the experimental arm, which would have been the simple hysterectomy, was 0.6% versus 11% in the standard of care arm, but no difference in the risk of recurrence. Clearly, this is a paradigm-changing study. Clearly, the standard of care should be changed today, and hopefully will be, although that's a separate question. How do we get this information out? And clearly, this is the type of study we need to do more of. We need to figure out how to fund it. We need to make it a priority among the National Cancer Institute, National Institutes of Health. Surely, we're not talking about here asking pharma to fund a study that they don't involve in directly, but we need to figure out a way of doing these trials, doing them with a quality that we see here, resulting in a New England Journal of Medicine publication, but somehow making these kinds of pragmatic studies, asking questions that are incredibly relevant for quality of life for our patients as we move forward, become as important as studies are looking at new drugs, new devices. I thank you for your attention.